Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into a topic that I think we all find kind of fascinating. Empaths and narcissists. We've got a talk here that really dives into the psychology of these two personality types.
It does.
And it gets really interesting when it starts to look at how these personalities interact with each other.
Well, what I think is really fascinating about it is that we're not just, slapping labels on people. We're actually looking at some fundamental needs we as humans have and how those needs can sometimes, play out in not so healthy ways in our relationships.
Yeah, okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is an empath?
So an empath is someone who's very, very tuned into the emotions and energy of other people. It's like they have this extra sense where they can pick up on feelings that other people might not even be aware of. And it's a powerful gift, but it also can be a challenge because it allows for incredible compassion and understanding, but it can also have the empath feeling really overwhelmed or drained by other people's emotion.
Makes total sense. So how does someone become an empath? Is it just something you're born with, or?
That's a great question. And the speaker in this talk suggests that this kind of heightened sensitivity can actually develop as like a survival mechanism in childhood.
Oh, interesting.
So you can imagine a child growing up in an environment where their emotional needs are maybe neglected or there's a feeling of abandonment. That child might learn to become very hyper aware of the emotions of others as a way to try to anticipate their needs and avoid any potential conflict or rejection.
Oh, so it's like they're managing the emotions of others to protect themselves.
Exactly. It's a way of creating a sense of safety and control in an environment that might feel unpredictable.
That makes sense. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have the narcissist, who's often described as, manipulative, lacking in empathy. How does that personality type fit into this dynamic?
Well, I like to think of it this way. If the empath's energy is directed outwards, trying to sense and respond to others, the narcissist's energy is flowing inwards. They demand that the world revolves around them. They're very focused on their own needs and desires, often at the expense of other people.
So it sounds like these two personality types are like complete opposites.
They are in many ways.
So why are they so often drawn to each other? The speaker even used the word attracted. How does that work?
Well, it might seem counterintuitive, but when you look at it through the lens of unmet needs, it starts to make a little more sense. Remember, the empath is often craving validation and connection. They might be unconsciously drawn to the narcissist's outward confidence, strong sense of self.
Like seeing in them what they themselves feel like they lack?
Exactly. It's almost like they're attracted to that unshakable sense of self worth that the narcissist seems to project.
And on the flip side, the narcissist might see the empath as someone who can be easily manipulated, someone who will give endlessly without demanding much in return.
So this can create a dynamic where the empath's giving nature is exploited.
Yeah, to illustrate this, the speaker shared a personal story about their own family, describing their father as a classic people pleaser, always putting others before his own needs. And their father was in a relationship with someone who the speaker described as having many narcissistic traits.
Yeah, their ex step.
Yeah, controlling, demanding, constantly testing boundaries.
And that story, I think, really paints a clear picture of how this dynamic can actually play out in a real life relationship.
It does. The speaker also admitted to struggling with people-pleasing themselves, saying that they often felt obligated to do things they didn't really want to do. Like going on a trip to Telluride for a friend's birthday, even though it was inconvenient. They even bought a new car, a Range Rover, just to make the trip.
Wow, that brings up a really important point, I think, which is that even when we have really good intentions, our actions can actually become manipulative if they're driven by a need, control a situation, or avoid discomfort.
So even if we're not intentionally trying to manipulate, that people-pleasing behavior can still have unintended consequences?
Exactly. It's a subtle form of manipulation, even if it's coming from a good place.
Which leads us to a really fascinating idea that the speaker brought up, which is that empaths can actually learn from narcissists?
Now, hear me out on this one. Of course, we don't want to encourage the negative aspects of narcissism, but narcissists, in their own unhealthy way, are masters of setting boundaries and demanding what they want. An empath can learn from this, not by imitating the negative behaviors, but by recognizing the importance of self respect and asserting their own needs.
So instead of constantly trying to please others, empaths can learn to create healthy boundaries that protect their own energy and well-being.
Precisely, it's about finding that balance between being compassionate and being taken advantage of.
The speaker mentioned learning to say no without feeling obligated to give a reason. That sounds empowering, but honestly, it also sounds a little scary.
I understand the hesitation. Can be tough, especially for people who are naturally inclined to put others first. But it's really about reclaiming your energy and not allowing others dictate your emotional state. And in the talk, they actually shared a very powerful anecdote about a speaker named Dr. Sue Martin, who has a very unique way of demonstrating this concept.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this.
So she had an entire audience direct their energy towards her, and she described feeling the intense, like repelling force, almost like she was being pushed back by the weight of all that energy. It was like everyone was seeking her validation and approval. And that collective energy was literally like pushing her away.
That's a powerful visual.
It is, isn't it? And it really shows you how much energy we can project onto other people when we are looking for external validation. Then she had them bring their energy back to themselves, like focus on their own space. And she said that created this magnetic effect, a feeling of being grounded and centered.
So how does that apply to like our everyday lives?
Well, it suggests that, when we are constantly focused on pleasing other people, you're seeking their approval. You're actually projecting our energy outwards, leaving ourselves feeling kind of depleted and vulnerable.
It's like we're giving our power away instead of owning it.
This brings us to the concept you might have heard of before, inner child work. The speaker suggests that a lot of our adult relationship patterns, especially the ones that involve, people pleasing or seeking validation, actually stem from unmet needs in childhood.
I've always been kind of curious about inner child work, but to be honest, it sometimes sounds a little too out there for me. Can you explain a little more about what that actually means?
It's not about, literally talking to your younger self. It's about recognizing that many of us carry wounds from childhood, times when our emotional needs weren't met. And these unresolved issues can play out in our adult relationships, often unconsciously.
Okay, so how does this inner child work actually help us?
Well, the speaker uses this really fascinating analogy. It's called still face experiment. Have you seen videos of this?
I think I have. It's the one where like a mother's playing with her baby and then she just suddenly stops responding and
Yeah.
stares blank.
That's the one. And the baby's reaction is incredibly revealing. The baby will try everything to re engage the mother.
Right, smiling, pointing, making noises.
But when the mother remains unresponsive, the baby becomes visibly distressed.
Oh, it's so sad to watch. You can just see like the confusion and the anxiety building.
And it really highlights, I think, the importance of emotional mirroring and responsiveness for child's development. And what the experiment really shows us is how deeply a lack of that consistent validation and attention can impact the child. It can create this feeling of insecurity and this need to seek validation from external forces.
So you're saying we carry those early experiences and those unmet needs into adulthood.
Precisely. And that's where this inner child work comes in. It's about acknowledging those wounded parts of ourselves and learning to provide the love and support and validation that they may have lacked
But how do we actually do that?
growing up. Well, the speaker talks about connecting with what are called archetypal energies. And you can think of these as kind of like universal energies that exist within all of us. Like, for example, the nurturing, unconditional love of the mother, the strength, protection, and stability of the father.
Okay, so we're not talking about our actual parents here. We're
Right.
talking about these like broader concepts
Exactly.
of motherly and fatherly energy.
Precisely. And the idea is that we can access these energies within ourselves to essentially represent our inner child, to provide that nurturing and support that may have been missing.
So it's like we're learning to give ourselves the love and security that we might have craved from others.
Exactly. And here's where it connects back to the whole empath narcissist dynamic. Both types, in their own ways, are seeking those qualities,
Like love and validation and security.
but they just go about it in a very different, often unhealthy way.
It sounds like this whole deep dive is really less about labeling ourselves and more about understanding the deeper motivations behind our behavior and the behavior of others.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing our own unmet needs and finding healthier ways to fulfill them, both within ourselves and through our relationship.
This leads to a crucial question for all of us. What are healthier ways that we can give and receive love and support in our relationships?
Yeah, that really is a powerful question.
It is.
You know, it makes you really stop and think about
It does.
how you approach relationship.
And it challenges us to move beyond just those, surface level judgments
Right.
like, oh, he's such a narcissist or she's too much of a people pleaser. And instead, we can start to see these behaviors as expressions of deeper needs, maybe even unmet needs from childhood.
It's like we are all just trying to figure out how to get our needs met. But sometimes we go about it in ways that
Create more problems than they solve.
exactly. And the more we can understand those underlying needs, the better equipped we are to create those healthy, fulfilling relationships. Because when we can meet our own needs in a healthy way, we are less likely to fall into those patterns of seeking validation or control from others.
The speaker even offered a very practical tool for doing that,
Yes.
which is a guided meditation focused on inner child healing to help you tap into those archetypal energies that we talked about, the divine mother and the divine father, and start to give yourself that love and support that you might have been seeking from other people.
And it's such a beautiful practice because it's really about cultivating that sense of, becoming our own source of strength and security, than relying on others to fulfill that void.
So if we can start to heal those old wounds
Mm.
and cultivate that sense of inner peace, does that mean that we're less likely to attract people who might try to take advantage of us?
Well, I think it definitely plays a role. The more grounded and secure we are within ourselves, the less likely we are to tolerate those unhealthy dynamics. It doesn't mean we become cold or emotionless, but we develop a stronger sense of discernment and we are better equipped to set boundaries that protect our well being.
It reminds me of what the speaker said about learning to say no without guilt or obligation.
That's such a key takeaway from this whole deep dive.
It is.
It's about shifting our perspective from feeling like we have to please others to recognizing that we have the power to choose how we want to show up in the world.
This conversation has really given me a lot to think about in terms of my own relationships.
Oh, good, I'm getting it.
Like, I'm seeing things through a new lens, understanding both myself and the people in my life on a deeper level.
I think that's the mark of any good, exploration of human psychology. It should leave us with more questions than answers and inspire us to continue exploring our own, inner landscape and our relationships with others.
Absolutely. This has been a really insightful journey.
It has.
As we wrap up, is there one final thought you want to leave our listener with?
I think the most important question to ponder as you continue this journey of self discovery is what unmet needs are you carrying with you? And how can you begin to address those needs in a way that brings you greater peace, fulfillment, and authentic connection in your life?
That's a beautiful invitation.
It is.
It's a reminder that this journey of understanding ourselves and our relationships is ongoing, and it's a journey worth taking. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive